Hello and welcome to the Live Life Extraordinary podcast. I'm your host, Bianca DeLuco. And today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about the 4 S's that every woman needs in order to find success and fulfillment. For those of you that don't know me, I've been running a yoga and wellness studio for the greater part of the last 10 years. And in doing that, I've learned many things about not only achieving success in business, but about being fulfilled and happy while doing that. We can definitely be in a place where we're like hustling and working really hard towards our goals, but we're burning ourselves out and we're really stressed, or we feel like we're out of alignment and what we're doing doesn't really feel good to us or feel like it's the direction we really want to go in. And so these are the 4 things over the last 10 years that I've really noticed have made such a significant improvement in the way that I think, feel, and act and the overall results I see in my life. The first one being self-care. Now, we have all heard the phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup. It's kind of beaten into us over and over and over again. But what's even bigger than not being able to pour from an empty cup is the idea that we are pouring from empty cups. Every single day, we're going to work, we're taking care of our families, we're trying to take care of ourselves, we're managing a household, and we're doing it until the very last drop, and even sometimes after the last drop. So what I've started to think about, even more so than not being able to pour from an empty cup, is the idea that what's within your cup is what pours out of you into every single area of your life. So if you are filled with burnout and stress and anxiety, disappointment, overwhelm, whatever those feelings are, that's what's spilling out into your relationships. That's what's spilling out into your work. That's what's spilling out into your hobbies. That's what's spilling out into your home. So if you really think about the type of energy and you want to experience in all of the different areas of your life, it really starts with you. Everywhere you go, there you are. You are the common denominator in every single area of your life. Your health and well-being, your finances, your hobbies, your career. You are the one thing that's constant across all of those things. And so those things can be thriving and flourishing and wonderful. But if you are not taking care of yourself and you're not feeling happy, joyful, peaceful, grateful, whatever, none of those areas of your life are going to feel good too. So self-care is really the very foundational piece to feeling very good in your entire life. A handful of years ago, back before COVID, when I was running my yoga studio, I was in the best shape of my life. I have like my dream house, a great partner, everything you could really want and success in my business. But I was very much the most depressed I've ever been, the most anxious I've ever been. It was the most like unworthiness and not enoughness I've ever felt, the most burnout I've ever experienced. So everything around me was thriving, but what was in me wasn't great. And so that's what was spilling out into all these areas of my life, tainting all of these great things that I've created. So self-care is the very, very, very first piece. The second S is self-healing. So a lot of this you're going to notice is focused on you and what you can do in your relationship with yourself to bring to the world around you. So self-healing is really, really important because if you are someone that has a lot of negative thought patterns or a negative mindset, a negative perspective on life, it doesn't matter what shows up in your world, you're still going to view it through that skewed type of lens. Every single day we have about 60,000 thoughts, and those thoughts impact how we feel, the feelings that we have impact the actions that we take, and the actions that we take impact the results we see in our lives. And so if you are in this place where you are constantly thinking negatively and feeling negatively, you're not going to be, and not even negatively, sometimes just disempowered. If you feel like, let's say one of the most common things I hear from people is the feeling of like not being good enough for their partner, not being a good enough mom, not being good enough to join this new gym, whatever it is that your goals are. That feeling of not being good enough disempowers you from taking action. And when you don't take the actions that you know you're meant to take, then you're not going to get the results that you want. You're not going to have that fulfilling relationship. You're not going to have that career or that promotion that you've really wanted to go after because you've self-sabotaged and self-talked yourself out of it. So the second piece to success and fulfillment, in my opinion, is self-healing. So self-care and self-healing. We can do this through a number of ways. Going to therapy is a great way to work on your mindset and the way that you think and feel. Working with a life coach is another great way. I found that self-affirmation has been really, really helpful for me as far as feeling more whole and more complete so that I can take the actions that are going to move me in the right direction. So, and in the coming weeks, we are going to have some more podcast episodes that dive into each of these 4 pillars a little bit deeper. So if you are feeling like you want to continue this conversation and stay part of this, definitely subscribe to the email newsletter so that you get notified each time the new episode goes live. So the third pillar, in my personal opinion, to success and fulfillment is spirituality. You have to have some sort of belief and trust in something bigger and greater than yourself. You have to believe that it's all for a greater purpose. And spirituality comes in many, many different forms. There's a lot of confusion between spirituality and religion. And while religion can be a spiritual practice for many people, spirituality is really about where you feel the most connected, the most whole, the most inspired, the most trusting, the most surrendered. And so if you're an artist, that might be when you're creating art, your spiritual connection might be found there. You might find a sense of spirituality, a sense of connection and purpose when you're listening to music, when you're dancing, when you're out in nature. It could be a spiritual text or a spiritual place like a church or synagogue or something like that. But I find that having some sort of spiritual connection is vital in having faith when things get hard and also having appreciation for all of the little things in our lives. I think gratitude is a very spiritual practice, being able to appreciate even like the smallest of things, like I'm so grateful I have a refrigerator because it would be incredibly hard to keep all my food fresh without one, you know? And because I think there's this balance between striving towards what it is that we want while also appreciating what we have. Because if you are never in this place of deep appreciation, you're never going to appreciate, you're always going to need and want more. So spirituality and self-healing kind of go in the same hand in hand there, because when you feel like you're not good enough, nothing you have will ever feel good enough. And so having that like appreciation for life. The other things about spirituality is if you've ever looked into things like law of attraction or manifestation, I will say that most law of attraction manifestation things that are taught and shared on the internet, I don't personally align with. I don't think that your thoughts just create your reality in this really simplistic kind of way, and that visualization just like helps you to manifest things. But I do think that there's like an energetic component to creating the things that you want in your life. You've experienced energy in your life. I'm very certain when you go into a room and there's an argument that's just taken place and you can kind of feel that, or when a friend says they're fine and you can feel that they're not, there's this energy that's kind of very present. And I think that the energy you give off is a huge aspect to your success, right? If you are looking for a romantic partner and you have this like insecure energy or this desperate energy, they can feel that and it can be very off-putting. Same thing when it comes to like business or your career. If you're going to your boss and asking for a raise or a promotion, or you're going into an interview for your dream job, if you have this like insecurity and this smallness about you, they can feel that. So that kind of ties back into your self-care practices as well, because the more that you're nurturing yourself and the more that you're practicing self-healing too, the more you're feeling confident, the more you're feeling abundant, the more you're feeling aligned, the more you're trusting. These kind of all really go hand in hand. But the last piece that I'll say about the spirituality component is intuition. So we put out energy, but also being able to read energy is like our sixth sense, right? So we see with our eyes, we hear with our ears, but being able to sense the energy of the space around you is going to help you decide what things are in alignment for you and what things are not in alignment for you. So this could be opportunities, this could be people. I think intuition works in many different ways. It's not just reading the room on an energetic level and determining what feels good for you. It's also about being able to like listen, like if you meditate or if you journal, or if while you are creating art, you have these inspired ideas. A lot of what I do in life and business comes from some sort of inspired idea. I could elaborate more on that, but we'll probably go deeper into that in like a future episode. But yeah, I think spirituality in the form of belief and trust and surrender and gratitude and energy and intuition is a huge, huge part of being successful and feeling fulfilled along your path in life. The last piece, the last of the 4 S's is sustainability. And I was saying sustainable goals for a while, and something about that wasn't really jiving with me. But I realized that it's not just sustainable goals, but it's sustainable actions too. So sustainability in goals and actions looks like many different things. For a while, I heard this phrase that was like, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you'll land amongst the stars, right? So I used to do things like set a goal to make $100,000 in a year, and like maybe I would fall short at like 50. I don't know. But what would happen is when I was like only making like $500 doing things like the podcast or the blog or whatever I've done over the last handful of years, I would find myself feeling really discouraged and feeling, again, not good enough, or like there's something wrong with me, which would cause me to feel discouraged and give up. And so the sustainability piece is about setting smaller, more attainable goals. So I recently did this when I ran the Spring Self-Care Challenge back in like April, where I had this goal of like 100 people in the challenge. And like, I was like, oh, it's a free challenge. It's self-care. Like, of course, a bunch of people are going to want to do it. It's really valuable. I put it out there, and day one, like, it was like 6 or 8 people had signed up. And so I was like, okay, if I have a goal of 100 and I have only 8 people in the challenge, I'm going to feel really discouraged. Like, I'm never going to get there. Maybe nobody values this. Maybe this offer isn't good enough. Maybe people don't like me. All of these stories, right? Back to that self-healing piece. And I said, instead, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my goal down into a more sustainable goal, something that's more achievable, that as I achieve the goal, I can feel good about it, build on my confidence, and then expand my goal over time. So what that looked like was knocking my goal down to 10 people, which I hit immediately. And from 10, I raised it to 20, from 20 to 30, from 30 to 50, 50 to 75. And the morning that the challenge started, I had 100 people in the challenge. Now, if I would have kept that original 100% goal and wouldn't have seen much progress and felt like I was really far away from reaching that goal, I would have given up in my promotion because I would have felt really discouraged. And this is something that happened to me a lot when I was trying to build a one-on-one practice, when I was trying to launch retreats without my yoga studio. Like, there's a lot of times in business that I was trying to work towards these goals, and because I didn't have smaller, more attainable goals, I was losing my confidence and I was finding myself really disappointed and giving up before I even really got started. So this looks like a lot of things too, where like, let's say your goal is not business like mine, your goal is exercise and being healthy, right? Sustainability is about what you can consistently do over time, right? We don't want to think about like, oh, I'm going to exercise every single day for 1 hour, because what's going to happen on Wednesday, you're going to wake up late after you didn't sleep well. You're going to skip your workout that day and be like, I knew I couldn't do this. I always give up. I always say I'm going to exercise and I never actually do. I always quit after the first week, right? All of these consistent stories that show up when we're trying to build a healthy habit. Instead, you're going to be much happier and much more successful by building a goal that's like, I'm going to work out 3 times for 30 minutes over the next week. Because then if you do wake up late on Wednesday, you have the opportunity to make up for it on Thursday. So it gives you some flexibility in knowing that life is imperfect and life is unpredictable. And so you can look at the challenges that you are going to experience in your life and set up something that's going to be more sustainable for you, so you can again build on your confidence, build on your motivation, and continue to take those small actions that lead to big changes. I've been saying for the last few months, small steps lead to big changes. So it's not big steps or big giant leaps that lead to big changes, because sometimes if you leap, you miss your target. So I hope that this episode has inspired you. Again, just to kind of like recap and summarize, your 4 S's for success and fulfillment are self-care, self-healing, spirituality, and sustainability in goals and actions. So it takes a very holistic approach to life. And actually, when I shared this kind of idea and framework with one of my close friends, she was like, oh yeah, it kind of represents like the 4 bodies: the mind, the body, the spirit. Mind, body, spirit. Oh, and the heart. Mind, body, heart, and spirit. I'm like, I'm missing one. Like the heart being the self-care piece, like taking care of yourself, loving yourself, nurturing yourself. The mind being the healing aspect, the self-healing, making sure we're taking care of all the mess in the mind. Spirituality, obviously, it lines up with the spiritual self. And then the physical body very much aligns with that sustainability piece. So, which is really cool for me to like make that connection, because all of this started with me learning about the mind, body, spirit connection back when I was an undergrad in psychology. So it's cool for it to like come full circle and me watch how it's not just played a role in my physical well-being, but in the creation of a life that I really truly love. So if you have any questions about anything that's been shared, feel free to send me an email at info@biancadeluco.com. If there's any topics you'd like to hear on the podcast, feel free to also send an email to that place. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to create more content that helps you become your best self and create your best life. So thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the podcast, and I cannot wait to connect with you again soon.